Head over to miniaturemarket.com where they have thousands of board games at discounted prices, and you can sign up for product alerts. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here, and Gencon starts a few days after this video launches. And just yesterday, I launched my top 10 games that are going to be at Gencon that I've already played, and those are ones that I already have experience with and I already know are very good. If you haven't seen that video yet, go back and watch that one, because that's actually the tried and true list that I know that you're going to get good experiences with those games. This one is the most anticipated, meaning I just kind of know what the game's about, but I haven't actually played it, but these are the ones I'm really looking forward to. Now, without further ado, here we go.
Number 10.
Number 10 is Machikoro 2. Now, this is not an expansion, this is a standalone game. Now, Machikoro is a game that came out many years ago. It's one of those games that's kind of breathed life into like a mechanism that other games now use, where you roll dice and everybody gets to possibly use those dice regardless of whose turn it is. It kind of took like the old Settlers of Catan style thing and turned it on its head and did different things with it. Now, since more Machikoro's come out, different games like Space Base and Foodies and have used this mechanism to success actually, but this is different. It's Machikoro, but it has some twists to the original. Number one, there's a bunch of new cards, a bunch of new buildings, landmarks, and 3 different sets of buildings. But there's 2 really big changes to the way that the game works. Number one is you're going to be using different cards each game. So each game's going to feel a little bit different. You can't just, like the original Machikoro, you can just have your favorite strategy and just go after it every game. Here is, you're going to have different cards that are set up in each game. And so every game's going to feel different. Some of the cards, might synergize better with others. And you're trying to figure out, what's my strategy this game? And so it's going to make you look at the game in a different way. Also, at the beginning of the game, you're going to use sort of money to buy starting buildings, and that will really help you sort of set your strategy early. So if you've liked Machikoro in the past, but like me, you felt like, well, it feels too samey every game, then this might be something you want to check out. Machikoro 2 is for 2 to 5 players, takes about 45 minutes, is published by Pandasaurus, and they're at booth 1219.
Number 9.
The next one is a game from Haba. This is called The Key: Theft at Cliff Rock Via. Now, the reason why this is on this list is because there's 2 other games in this series that came out earlier this year. One of them I've already played, I have here, I haven't had a chance to review it yet, but I absolutely love it. And this game, The Key, again, has different games in this series and system. I love this system. This is sort of a family weight deduction game, but it's real time. There's a bunch of cards in the middle of the table, and players are willy-nilly taking cards and looking at a clue and then marking that clue somehow on their sort of dry eraser shield in front of them that no one else can see. But it's the way that these clues are given that are so interesting. Some people love a game called Awkward Guests, and I wasn't so hot on that game, but I did like the way that it did some of its deduction aspects, where sometimes you have to use not just spreadsheety type deduction, but you need to use like logic deduction, like, oh, well, they were here at this time, and this is 20 minutes away from here, so they clearly couldn't have been the murderer in this spot, and things like that. And this system does some really cool things like that, but the mechanism of getting the cards is easy. You just pull them from the middle, and it's real time. So it's kind of a race, because the person who gets it first gets like a few points less than everyone else, and you're trying to do it in the least amount of points. But it's not like a real-time game, because the one that does it the most efficiently is going to be the winner. And this game is just so clever in that right. I mean, it's basically like a 20-minute deduction game, 15 to 20 minutes, but they have different interesting ways to give clues, and each of the games in this set do a different thing. Like the one that I was talking about earlier had like a DNA thing, and this one has like fingerprints. So you're gonna get some clues of fingerprints. You're gonna be looking at a master list and trying to rule out characters. It's just really, really cool. This one is for 1 to 4 players, 15 to 20 minutes, and it's at the Haba booth.
Number 8.
All right, number 8 is a game, actually it's been restored from the Sid Sackson classic Buried Treasure back from 1992. I am a huge fan of Sid Sackson. Anything that's being redone with his name on it, I am looking at it. I've even played many old prototypes of his that aren't even out yet. He's one of my favorite designers ever. Now, this is a fast-paced, highly interactive game of hungry critters grabbing as many delicious baked treats as they can. Now, basically, you're taking a card from the tableau and adding it to your stash, and different treats score different points each round, with one big twist. If you tie with another player, you both end up with nothing. I always love that in games. Las Vegas is one of my favorite sort of Spiel des Jahres nominees that did that, where like if people are tied for something, you both get nothing. And it just really ups the stakes and such. This is from Restoration Games. They are just known for bringing back old games that are great and making them even better. And so because they're touching this, and because it's Sid Saxon, because the art looks so awesome, this is kind of a no-brainer for me to want to see here at Gen Con. And so again, a little quick sort of 20-minute game. It's 2 to 5 players from Restoration Games. It's at booth 929.
Number 7.
All right, number 7 is a game called Picture Perfect. Now, this is a deduction game, and I love deduction games. Now, this is where you need to arrange 14 different characters to take the perfect photograph. Now, each of them has 3 specific desires that you're gonna need to try to fulfill for that photograph. But unfortunately, these desires they're hidden in envelopes. And you're trying to take a look inside these envelopes to figure out how to place the characters correctly. And then to do so, you gotta trade your information with others or maybe try to hide it. Now, whoever earns the most points at the end of the game, has filled the most desires and becomes the master photographer. I love deduction games. I like this theme. It's pretty cool. You're trying to like figure out where everybody wants to be in the picture, and whoever gets everyone in the right spot and takes the picture wins. I think that's a really clever theme. It looked like this game came out, it was published a while back from a smaller publisher, and now Arcane Wonders is bringing it out. So this looks fantastic. I love deduction games. Arcane Wonders does great things and does great production. This is for 2 to 4 players, 50 to 90 minutes, and in there, Arcane Wonders is at booth 911.
Number 6.
Number 6 is called Savannah Park, and this is designed by one of my favorite design teams, Wolfgang Kramer and Michael Kiesling. They have done so many games. Many of their games have been nominated for the Spiel des Jahres. A recent game this year, Renature, came out. Oh my gosh, that game's amazing. So anytime these two, either individually or together, put a game together, I'm always going to be interested in it. Now in this one, each turn, you're each going to run your own wildlife park. And your goal is to group animals with their own kind, but everyone takes turns deciding what to move. So you might not be able to shuffle animals into the right spaces, essentially. But on your turn, essentially you pick up an animal and you take it off the board, you call it out, and everyone else does the same thing on their own board. Then each player needs to place it into an open spot on their own board. So everyone's board is randomized at the beginning, so everyone starts with a different puzzle, but everyone has basically the same tile somewhere on their board. And once all the animals are moved and basically flipped over, then everyone scores. Now, animals will be removed that are sort of next to bushfires, but you'll get points for any trees or grass that you didn't cover up, and you'll also score the most valuable herd of each of the 6 different species with the number of animals in that large herd multiplied by the number of watering holes there are. That kind of reminds me of like sort of King Domino scoring, where you're taking like stars times how many things there are. This is similar to that, but this sounds very clever to me. When I first was reading about this, it made me think about a game called Karuba, where in that case, everyone actually starts with the same exact board and plays exactly the same game, and their board ends up different. Here, it's like the players are deciding what tile gets placed next, but you all have the same board, and even though the setup's very randomized, so everyone has a different game and such, but for some reason it reminded me of Karuba. But this sounds really, really cool. It's for 1 to 4 players. It seems pretty light and quick, 20 to 40 minutes, but it is coming out by Capstone Games, who has been hitting it out of the park recently, and they are at booth 731.
Number 5.
Number 5 is a game called Witchstone. Witchstone, as in a witch and a stone. Now this is designed by Dr. Rainer Knizia, one of my favorite designers, and I've heard that this supposedly feels like a Stefan Feld game, even though it was a Rainer Knizia design. Now each player has their own cauldron, and you're placing double hex tiles, kind of like Ingenious from Rainer Knizia, and you're putting them on there and doing different actions. Now, if it touches the same action icon that's surrounded by on it, then you take that action multiple times. Kind of like in Ingenious. You put a purple next to a bunch of purples, you're getting 2 or 3 or 4 purples. Here, you put a wand next to a bunch of wands, you're getting 2, 3 or 4 actions of the wands. It's kind of interesting that Knizia tends to take things that he's done in the past and makes them into different games. This is basically Ingenious on your own board, but instead of just getting points for colors, you have all these different actions. Now, this game has some route building in it, and you can even use others' routes for a higher action cost. And each action basically does different things. Think a la any Feld. Think Castles of Burgundy or anything. You take this action, it does this. You take this action, it does this. You take this action, it does this. This gets you points, and this gets you points. It's a point salad. It's like a Rainer Knizia point salad with Ingenious style mechanisms. It sounds amazing to me. This is 2 to 4 players, 60 to 90 minutes, and out of all publishers, this is coming from R&R Games, who has had some strategy games in the past, but is mostly known for their party games. So I'm really excited to see that they're coming out with some heavier games again. That's number 5, Witchstone.
Number 4.
Number 4 is actually an expansion, but it is to one of the most popular games that came out last year, Lost Ruins of Arnak. Now, this is called Expedition Leaders. Now, you'll be giving your expedition an edge by choosing one of 6 unique leaders. Now, each of those are equipped with different abilities, skills, and starting decks. That they basically offer starting different strategies and styles of play for you to explore. Now, it also includes alternative research tracks that offer even more variety and bigger challenge, and new items and artifact cards help create new combos and synergies, along with more guardians and assistants. So this game, again, it looks like they did more of the same, which is like new things, new cards, but the big thing here is a new, different asymmetrical starting deck, which many deck builders tend to have that, and I think this is just going to be great. It's going to be add more of what we already like, more variability, more synergies, more combo building, but also different decks for everyone to start with to give you a different strategy. This is going to be a no-brainer. This is going to be amazing. This is from Chex Game Edition CGE. Now at Gencon, they don't have a booth. They have these humongous rooms. They're on the 2nd floor. Right when you come in the main lobby, you go up the stairs. Rooms 233 to 239. They're usually right at the top of the stairs. You won't be able to miss their huge banners everywhere. And this is the Lost Ruins of Arnak expansion.
Number 3.
Number 3 is called Mystic Paths. Now, I'm a huge fan of like cooperative word games like code names, for example, or trap words, or you name it, crosswords, or So Clover, or Just One, you name it. Cooperative deduction, when I say cooperative, I mean Codenames Duet, of course. This is a cooperative deduction word game where you know your path. Every player has a different path, and that path has different words. So you know which words you're trying to get the others to basically talk about and guess which ones there are. Now the trick is that the words on your path are probably not related in any way to each other, and the only way you have to get them this answer is through a hand of cards, and these have different words on them for clues. For example, the next portal on your journey could be the word anteater, but your clues and cards might be limited to some things like scary or tall or handsome, and you've got to decide, well, which of these do you choose? Which of these is going to make them guess that path versus the other possible 5 maybe ways that they could go that round, because there's a bunch of different paths that are leading out. So the game basically takes place in 5 rounds, and you beat the game by having everyone's completing their own journey before the 5 rounds are over. This just seems so clever. I just love these clever word games that are coming out, and this just seems like another one of these. And this is for 2 to 6 players, 45 to 60 minutes, and like Witchstone, this is also done by R&R Games. This is kind of more in their wheelhouse, the party games there.
Number 2.
Number 2 is a game that was a Kickstarter last year. Just started fulfilling the backers, and it's been getting a ton of buzz, but this is sort of the first time it's going to be available really kind of like in quote unquote, it's not even going to be really in distribution till like September-ish, but I think they're going to have copies here to buy, and this is Cascadia. Now, this essentially, you're trying to create the most harmonious ecosystem as you puzzle together habitats and wildlife. Now, this is a beautiful looking game where you're taking a set of habitat tiles and wildlife tokens that come together. They're matched as a set, and that set is randomized every round. And you're building your own tableau and trying to optimize different scoring based on animal cards that differ each game. Now, you score for the largest area of each type of habitat at the game's end as well, and with a bonus if your group is larger than any other players. Now, this is sort of a very puzzly game. It's done by the same publisher as Calico, which is a very popular puzzly game last year. And it looks and feels like it's going to be very puzzly like that, but I've also heard it's a little bit more an open forgiving, meaning you're not just waiting for one very specific tile that might not come out of the bag. So if you take like the aspect of sort of Calico and put it in this nice beautiful landscape, make it so you're drafting sets of different things, that those are random, and the scoring is different in random every game, this looks right up my alley. And having a little bit more forgiving than Calico, ooh, this might replace Calico for me. I don't know, and that's really high on my list. This is for 1 to 4 players, 30 to 45 minutes, and at the show at Gen Con, it's going to be in AEG's booth.
Number 1.
All right, number 1. I heard about this game coming out early this year, and I read the entire rulebook one night, like 6 months ago, and I went, oh my gosh, I can't wait for this to come out. For some reason, I kind of forgot about it, but then remembered about it because to make this list, thank you Board Game Geek, Eric Martin, for putting this list together of what's going to be out at Gen Con. This, The Hunger, is a game by Richard Garfield. You know, the guy who did little games like Magic the Gathering and, King of Tokyo and Bunny Kingdom and things like that. Now, you essentially are vampires leaving your castle to hunt for roses and humans. Now, this is a deck building game with a board. And you're going to be playing cards to move certain distances, and you're going to be collecting treasures, and you're going to be collecting missions, which are basically like set collections of majorities of humans that you hunt. Set collections of humans and majorities. Now, leftover speed points that you'll be playing on your cards, which essentially is like moving, are also used to buy cards, or hunt if you will. So some of the hunts have side effects that hinder you and make it harder for you to get all the way back to your castle, because it has a press your luck element. Now if you don't get back by the end of the game, you're going to be burnt up into ash and into the sun. Does this sound a little similar to Clank? Seems like it has quite a bit of similarities. Deck building, push your luck, trying to go really far and get better things, but if you don't get all the way back, you're dead. Has some similar things, but it does feel like there's a lot different about this too. And you put Richard Garfield's name on the game. I'm not huge on deck builders, but I did love Clank. You look at the art in this game, it looks awesome. Renegade just knows what they're doing. So because it's coming from a great publisher, a monumental, one of the most important designers in board game history, great art, Clank-like type things with some new twists, this is a no-brainer of why this is my number 1 most anticipated game at Gen Con coming up here. It's for 2 to 6 players, takes 60 minutes to play, again from Renegade Game Studios. They're at booth 1803, 1803. Well, there you have it. There's my top 10 most anticipated games at Gen Con. I hope you learned about a new game this time, and check those out while you're at Gen Con. This has been the Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships through board games, and helping you find the next one you'll love. Game Toppers not only transforms your existing table to a high-quality gaming solution, they now offer full leg kits and dining cover solutions for the full table application. Paired with their amazing, thematic, premium stitch edge mats from noted board game artists like Vincent Dutray, collapsible cup holders, and really cool accessories, it's a complete system that upgrades every game you play. Go to GameToppersLLC.com or click the link below.